Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bullpen. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. The Astros go 5-1 in a 6-game series versus two National League powerhouses. We've got Mike Stanton here, as always, to discuss how are the Astros doing this. Let's go right now.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way you can't hit it. Know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Bullpen. We got the lefty over here. He's got his baseball. Look, he is ready to talk Astros baseball. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. You know where to find me. You know, look, just go look on social media. I am everywhere. Find the show. Now, look, you can look up Back to the Bullpen. You'll still find us, but Our channel is officially Wheelhouse Media Company, and we don't have all the details in, but we do know we're excited that pretty soon we'll be announcing our first major sponsor, Houston Dodge. We're going to be talking about them, promoting those guys pretty strongly because there's some good dudes over there, Mike and crew. I've met them, Mike. They're phenomenal.
Cool.
And the Dodges they have, the Jeeps they have, I mean, beautiful vehicles. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, there's only one place. You can see it right there at the bottom. That is Mike Stanton 29 on X. Not on Insta, not anywhere else, but you can find me there.
We got to get you on TikTok, man. Come on. No TikTok, you don't.
Can't do it, man. Just can't do it. Can't pull myself to do it.
You know what? If I were to rank the least likely social media platform for you to jump to, it would be TikTok. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can cut a rug, maybe you can do the dances, but
listen, you never know.
Mike, you did a lot in your major league career, I'm sure. And so, between just all the ins and the outs, and look, before we get into this, I've got to mention this first because this is relief pitcher talk, and I just want to kind of throw you a curveball. Not really, but from today's game, because I think it's hot off the presses. Brian Abreu today.
Yeah.
Framber Valdez going in, shoving 7 innings. First two guys get on base, and you're like, Framber, is he going to unravel? They pull him.
Yeah, as they should.
They bring in Abreu. Abreu comes in and has no outs. A guy on first and second gets 3 outs and pitches another inning.
Yeah.
4 strikeouts, 2 innings, no hits, no walks. How huge is that for this guy? Because he is the setup guy for Josh Hader.
Yeah, that was the key to the game. The 7th inning was the game for the Cubs. It was the game for the Astros. The Astros offense, Altuve with the big swing to break the tie. I think it was in the 6th inning to give them the lowly 2 runs that they needed today. Abreu, listen, he has put up great numbers. You look at the ERA, it's below 2. I mean, you go, okay, all the strikeouts, he's walked guys. There just hasn't been a whole lot of really clean, dominant innings like we saw from Abreu today. I mean, even though he's putting up great numbers,
right,
there seems to be a lot of traffic out there. And I'll need to look into, what his whip is and walks per 9, stuff like that, dig in deeper to the numbers. But, it just seems like with Abreu, when he goes out there, that there's a lot of times he throws up a 0. It's just not all necessarily a pretty 0. Well, they were pretty today. He was dominant. He was in the zone. He was heading the count. He did everything he needed to do, especially there in the 7th inning to bail Framber out.
And one more, maybe I should name this Brett buried the lead. Josh Hader, 23 consecutive saves.
Yeah.
Has broken Dave Smith's record, a great relief pitcher for the Astros back in the day. but 23 in a row, Mike, he is a different guy. They've talked about his arm slot has changed a little bit. He saw some things that he didn't like.
Yeah.
And he just went to the lab and retooled. Does every pitcher go through this in the off season? Or, I mean, because you would think, oh, you're a pro. You've got to figure it out.
Well, you never have it figured out. You're always working on something. You know, I played with Clemens. I played with Bonds. You know, these guys, you know, seven Cy Youngs and 7 MVPs. These guys were still working on things every single day. You know, there were things that they struggled with, just like us average human beings did. So, yeah, there's things that you're always working on. And it's nice to see a guy that, as successful as Josh Hader has been, you know, really take a page out of the newer generation's book, which is using the technology as much as you possibly can. And, you know, did Josh make a big change? No, he did not. It was a slight little adjustment. And what he's been able to do this year that he had trouble with last year, because he didn't pitch all that poorly last year. He just couldn't keep the ball in the ballpark. He gave up a whole bunch of home runs. Well, he hasn't done that this year. He has been able to keep the ball in the ballpark, and that's why he's been able to convert so many saves. Because, you know, Josh Hader's not a guy that you're going to get, 3 or 4 hits off of in an inning. It's going to be a bloop and a blast or a walk and a blast or something like that. That's how you're going to score off him. But he's been able to keep the ball in the ball yard, and we know that the Astros defense helps him out.
Yeah. So moving forward, or moving ahead to the sweep of the Phillies.
Yeah.
If I would have said, okay, Mike,
crazy. Go ahead.
If
Set it up. Tee me up. Tee it up.
If I would have called you from Vegas and I said, hey, I've got this bet I'm going to lay right now. It's 4,000 to 1. The Astros score 5 runs and they sweep the Phillies. Would you tell me to take that bet or not?
If you were going to bet $5, that's fine. If you're going to bet any more than that, no, not at all. I mean,
right.
That's just something that just doesn't happen. Not in today's day, not in today's game. You go back into the 70s, maybe, 80s, possibly 90s, probably not. Maybe early 90s a little bit. You run into the old Atlanta Braves starting rotation. But it just an absolute remarkable series. And actually this whole homestand, other than Lance McCullers Jr. Struggling the other night, 2 nights ago, but I'll tell you what, it was absolutely incredible to see them able to put the Phillies away, because the Phillies, we talked about it the last time on our podcast that the Phillies were a team that was floundering a little bit. They weren't putting up the runs. They're still a very, very good ball club, but you just can't imagine that you're going to be able to sweep any team when you only score 5 runs. It doesn't matter who the team is.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, and for it to be the Phillies, and the Phillies have been good, but their offense has been up and down.
Yes.
Their offense has been less consistent than the Cubs.
Right.
And because I saw an interview the game after, because they went away from Houston and played their next series, and they didn't score any runs. And, Kyle Schwarber's like, look, I don't like hitting 1-something. That makes me mad when I see it.
Right.
It's just one of the things, though, you don't expect it to go this way. But the calling card of this 25 team is their pitching.
Yes. From
the starters to the bullpen. Someone says, any thoughts on Weems? There was a random guy who came in. His name is Jordan Weems that they signed recently. He threw a solid inning and didn't give up any runs. He didn't strike out anybody. But after what Gusto did with 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, I mean, Weems, you have these guys come in, and really it's kind of next man up mentality, especially in a game like that. You're not throwing any of your arms out there that have had significant impact and can affect.
And that's the reason Gusto was out there anyways, was he was out there to just suck up as many innings as he possibly could. Did his ERA end up paying for it? It did, because he gave up the 4 spot. But, that's the type of outing that, I would go up to him, as a veteran short reliever, and I would shake his hand and tell him, good job. and the reason why was because you didn't have to use any leverage relievers. You didn't have to use any of your other arms. He saved the bullpen. And, the thing is, that's not just for today. That's for the 3 or 4 days. You can actually go all the way out to a week if you want to. That's how important those innings are when you have a starter that doesn't, I think Lance McCullers, the 4th inning was the when the wheels fell off.
Yes, yeah, it was. I mean, it seemed like it seemed like that entire game. And I was like, why did this have to be on national TV? But, I mentioned Jordan Weems earlier, who they got. This guy actually hasn't been terrible in his career. In 23, Mike, he had a 5-1 record. He had 51 games pitched. I mean, he was a relief pitcher. Mm-hmm. But he had 60 strikeouts and 54 innings. So, I mean, he's got that ability. And these are guys the Astros just seem to kind of rummage through the bargain bin.
It's the same thing that they did last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year you lose 60% of your rotation in 2 days. And then all of a sudden, what's up, Judy? And all of a sudden you have guys come in and if not shoving, at least holding their own.
Right.
What are the long-term prospects? Who knows? Who knows? But
right.
I think that, again, I've said this before, that you have to give credit to the player development side of the Astros organization, just simply to make sure that these guys are ready when the call is made to come up. And number one, throw strikes. I have always said a young pitcher that throws strikes actually can have the advantage, because big league hitters don't like guys that they don't have a track record against. Well, when you come up to the minor leagues, obviously no one's got a track record against you. So if you can put the ball in the zone, get ahead in the count, now all of a sudden they're on their heels, even though they're the big leaguers and you're the call-up.
And that reminds me of a discussion I had with Joe Htown, one of the managers in the Astros organization, son of Dickie Htown, former Astro. And he talked about when Jose Urquidy came through. And he's like, look, Jose Urquidy, the thing we love about him is he's a strike thrower.
Big time strike thrower. Actually, sometimes too many.
Right. No. And he said also, but what is tough for him is he throws too many strikes. Mm-hmm. But then you don't want to tell him not to throw strikes, because then he gets out of his game. But fast forward to the Cubs series.
Yeah.
A couple of storylines. I was there Friday, Mike. It was really cool seeing how much appreciation the Astros fans had for both Tucker and Presley.
And rightly so.
And you had a ton of Astros Presley jerseys. You had, I walked by several Cubs fans and I told them, I said, hey, that's our moniker. He's our King Tuck. And they're like, he's ours now. Those fans, I talked to several. They were like, if the Cubs don't sign him, we're going to riot in the streets. They love Kyle Tucker. Now, I don't know if he stays. He's going to want a lot of money.
Oh, man.
But to see Cam Smith hit home runs in back-to-back games against the team that drafted him in the first round and traded him, and then to see Kyle Tucker have some success against the team that traded him away, just some fun. That's why I love baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk, especially with with the Cubs coming into town. Who won this trade? It's hard to say. Obviously the Astros got multiple players. Wozniacki, unfortunately, is on the IL.
Right.
But Cam has done a really nice job. Paredes has done a really nice job. So, but Tucker has also been a freaking beast. So I don't know. This is one of those trades you look at that it may take a lot longer to figure out who actually won it. And, to tell you the truth, if the Cubs don't sign Kyle Tucker, then I think it becomes pretty easy that the Astros won it, because these guys are going to be around here for a lot longer.
Yeah, exactly. Cam Smith, Mike, when he's getting hits, where he's hitting the ball, just showing a lot of maturity at the plate. And that's not, kind of like the Cubs version of that would be like Pete Crow Armstrong and what he's done this year.
Yeah.
There's not many rookies that come in and boom, can be impact bats.
Well, I think the Astros have done a nice job of using Cam as much as you can, but not overusing him, because anybody, any young player, any player, period, can suffer from overexposure. And I think the Astros have done a nice job, especially over the first couple months of the season, of kind of easing him into that everyday role. And what I see from Cam Smith more than anything else is just confidence. I mean, you're not seeing when he's letting the bat, when he's swinging the bat, he's letting it fly. He's trying to do damage. He's not trying to get base hits. And now you're starting to see the ball jump out of the ballpark, at least recently, at a pretty consistent rate. So, we knew the guy had big power, but, he just didn't have much professional experience. And so you didn't want to overwhelm him. And I think the Joe Espada and company have done a nice job of making sure that even though he seemed like he was fine, but just making sure he doesn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's what I think you call like managing expectations. Like don't get outside of yourself. And that's where I think the thought of losing Alex Bregman on the field, because you had heard how he had become instrumental when they would have mound visits and when he would tell pitchers, hey, attack this guy like this. But now it's just this culture that is ingrained in this ball club from Jose Altuve on down.
Well, I think we have to guard ourselves a little bit, because do they miss Tucker and do they miss Bregman?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, this is not a really good offensive club. With the win today, I think that is their 43rd game this season that they have scored 3 runs or fewer. I know this is something that I have harped on quite a bit, and I'm going to continue to keep an eye on it.
Right.
But listen, the pitching staff has just picked it up. I mean, that's the simple truth to the matter. Third team to 500, or I'm sorry, third team to 50 wins. The third best record in all of baseball behind the Tigers and the Dodgers. And what have they done? I mean, I think 22 or 23 come from behind wins.
Yeah.
That's the offense, but that's also the pitching staff keeping it close. This isn't that dissimilar, except the offense is even a little bit more subpar than the 22 team.
Exactly. No. And also they're winning a lot more at home, 31-14, where the last couple of years home has escaped them.
Actually, it's not a couple of years, really through this whole run. Since 2017, when they redid center field.
Oh, that's right.
That's when they redid center field. They have had issues at home. They've changed the lights. They've expanded the batting eye. They've done a whole lot of things at Dyken Park, trying to figure out exactly why this team struggles at home, because most of these years on the road, they've killed it.
Yeah. They have, I mean, but they just have impressive numbers when they do hit a home run, which they don't hit them a whole lot, but when they do, they're 40-17.
There you go.
I mean, they don't lead the league in home runs. They don't lead the league in runs per game. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
But you have guys like Framber Valdez. You have guys like Hunter Brown. Both, I think, aces in their own right. Coming into this game, Framber was riding a 7-game winning streak, which the last 7-game winning streak was Luis Garcia back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Hunter Brown go out and just dominate. I mean, when you talk about Hunter Brown, Tarek Skubal, Framber Valdez, Garrett Crochet, just 4 guys that are all dealing and all in top 10 of Major League Baseball. But 2 of those 4 names are in the Houston Astros rotation.
Well, and listen, that's why I think they are 3rd in Major League Baseball in ERA. What they have done at the top of the rotation is nothing short of spectacular, and it's nothing short of the reason why the Astros have been able to build the record that they have. They are definitely not pummeling teams into submission. This is whether it's they get the early lead and hold it, or the opponent scores first and then they just keep it close until the Astros, the Astros have been known as the cardiac kids for quite a while. And that's what they have. 22 games they have come from behind this year. And that's a remarkable number to go on top of everything else. So it's been an incredible first half of the season. Can the Astros? I mean, can the Astros keep winning the way they are? I mean, they can. But my goodness, would it be nice for them to be able to pick up the offense a little bit and give these guys a little bit of breathing room?
No, yeah, it would. One of the things that has become more popular, and I don't know how popular it was, back when you were playing in the major leagues, but the Astros, I know, acknowledge the bullpen whenever they hit home runs. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're like letting the bullpen know, hey, we're giving you all support. So
there you go.
Come in. You don't have to come in.
There wasn't much of that. This is a couple generations away from when I was in my heyday. And, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, you were supposed to, for the most part, act like you've done it before. This is a little different generation. It's more of a look at me generation, but, in the celebrations and the bat flips and all that, okay, whatever. I mean, that's what Major League Baseball is now. But no, back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot of celebrations.
Right. And what's funny is I think Altuve forgot once or twice, and the team
he did.
Had been giving him,
they let him know, and he had to go back out and yeah.
But I think this season too is full of, like, I would call them unsung heroes, like the Bennett Sousas. I mean, we can't say Jordan Weems is a hero yet because he only has one inning. But you have Brendan Walter, you have Stephen O'Kurt, the Caleb Moore. I mean, you have Brian King, guys that, look, you're a relief pitcher. You go in there and you do something phenomenal. And a lot of times it's the starter or the closer or the guy who hits a home run, but it's really the guys in the middle that sustain that. They're the glue that holds things together.
Well, I mean, I always called myself, I'm like an offensive lineman. Okay. I was pretty good at my job. But when do you talk to the offensive lineman? When you miss the block, that's when when you talk. That's when you hear about it. Now, these guys, it's kind of the same thing. And I used to tell the media at the beginning of the season, I hope I don't talk to you guys all year, because that means I did my job all year long. And listen, it's just the nature of the beast. When you give it up and you're the story of the game, you got to sit there and you got to take the hits. When you do your job, you're not the story of the game. So they're not going to talk to you. They're going to talk to the starting pitcher. They're going to talk to the closer. A lot of times closers don't even get that much publicity.
You're right, they don't.
Unless you convert 23 in a row, and like Josh Hader has, and he deserves anything that he gets. But it's just one of those situations that, what is the story of the game? And a lot of times the guys that are the middle relief, the short relief, leverage relievers, they're not the story if you go in there and do your job.
Exactly, because the game has changed. We don't have the situational left-hander, the situational right-hander.
It has changed, but it's still similar also, just simply because starting pitchers don't go nearly as deep as they used to.
That's true. That's true.
So now, I mean, listen, the Astros only use 3 pitchers today. That is kind of an aberration. That doesn't usually happen. It's usually 4 or 5 pitchers every single night. And, the starter and then the closer. And then there's usually a few guys in between to get the ball to the 9th inning to the closer.
Well, the other day, the Astros sent 5 lefties to the mound.
There you go.
And that
Not
was
too many teams can do that.
Yeah, no, that was, and how many times do you remember hearing, when Dusty Baker was here, we need a lefty. We need a lefty. Yeah. I mean, they just didn't have them.
Right. And, well, and a lot of times lefties were looked at as a luxury. I've even gone through free agency and never really late in the off season, but always later than you ever wanted to.
Right.
But just simply because getting a left-hander in the bullpen a lot of times it might be high on the list, but it just wasn't as high as some of the other wants in an offseason for a roster.
And see, that's where I think, things have really evolved. One of a former student of mine now, he's an adult, he's out of baseball now, but he pitched with the Padres and the Rockies some. There were so many times he said, I believe that had I been a left-hander, I would have been like sent up like right away, because at the time they were looking for that lefty. And, he said a lefty that throws 97 is harder to find than a righty because everybody throws right. And so, clubs started like evaluating that stuff differently here and there. But the third team to 50, we've mentioned it. I would add that the Astros have one of the weakest schedules in the second half. Now, it doesn't mean the Astros change their approach, because they don't.
Nope.
But if they are playing the weakest schedule, they should probably try to take advantage and see if they can't get the ball out of the yard a little bit more, produce more offense.
Yeah, they're going to try, no doubt. But I have always said, in Major League Baseball is really unlike any other big sport, major sport. In football, if you have the best team playing the worst team, you know who's going to win. Same thing in basketball. It's just a matter of how big is the win going to be. What's going to be the spread. In baseball, that's not always the truth. I mean, you just look at what the Astros have done in this last homestand. I mean, they had what was the kid that started game one against the Cubs? What was his name?
Against the Cubs, it was was it Walter?
Yes, I think it was
Walter.
Would you have picked, because the Cubs, one of the best offenses in all of baseball, scoring a bucket load of runs. Dude goes out there and throws, 5 or 6 shutout innings. I mean, that's just something you don't. You can't.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember going into it, seeing Hunter Brown and Valdez both in the Phillies, and then going, oh, look who we got in the Cubs series.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, really the only hiccup in this whole last homestand was Lance McCullers coming back off the IL, and he figured out how good the Cubs offense really is, giving up the 3 home runs and 7 runs. Just had a bad outing, but hopefully definitely there in the 4th inning it was. But those things happen when you have a powerhouse offense like the Cubs do. But the Astros just keep doing what you're doing. But I've always said, this is where I was trying to get to. I've always said it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Because every team in Major League Baseball at some point is going to get hot. Now, is it for a series? Is it for a week? Is it for a month? You just don't know. But even the worst of teams, they're going to be playing the Rockies. They're still going to have to buckle their chin straps, go out there and execute their pitches, score some runs, and hopefully try and win another series. But you can't just throw your hat out there and expect the other team to roll over.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's a lot of people, jumping on Lance right now. Oh, he was terrible. He needs to retire. Yeah, he was terrible. But it's like, he struck out 12 batters.
I will say they were 2 bad starts, but there's still only 2 starts. Hey, before he went on the IL, he had 3 or 4 starts in a row that he had actually shoved. So
he was. Yeah, he's been dealing.
We're not quite ready to start kicking the dirt on the career of Lance McCullers Jr. yet.
That's right. But there are a lot of fans that are, for sure. So let's wrap this conversation up in this way, because you and I were talking before the show started. Okay, there are a number of left-handed bats that are available, possibly for your trading fancy. You've got guys like Marcell Ozuna in Atlanta. You have Eugenio Suarez in Arizona. You have I believe Chris Taylor? Taylor Ward in Anaheim. Then you have Cedric Mullins. You have Ryan O'Hearn. Mm-hmm. These are all big bats. And it says, apparently, Bob Nightingale reported today, wrote in an article, or maybe a day ago, that the Astros were pursuing Cedric Mullins. And I put that out there to kind of get the feel of the fan base. And the fans were like, whoa, can we pump the brake on Cedric? He's batting .213. We don't need another subpar bat in the lineup. And then everybody started throwing up the big names. Of course, I would love Ryan O'Hearn on this team. But tell me, Mike, what is, like, what is reality here? I know what fans want, but why would you be going after Mullins if he's not? Now, he has high upside. He has success.
Sure.
But,
and a change of scenery can always help.
So tell me, how is this good baseball thinking if we're pursuing Cedric Mullins? Because every fan that I talk to doesn't like this.
Well, because first, it takes two to tango. Okay. You have to have someone on the other side that wants what you have. And that's where the Astros are going to have the biggest problem. They don't have the strongest minor league system. They don't, they don't have really any top prospects in their minor league. So when you start talking about a guy like O'Hearn, who's having a great season, there's going to be a big price tag that goes along with that if he is moved. And there lies the problem. It's not necessarily just what you're getting bringing onto your club. It's what you have to send the other way, because the Astros are probably going to have to detract from their 26-man big league roster, and it's actually kind of against everything you want to do. But that's why I don't really think you may get a name, because Cedric Mullins is a pretty big name. People know who he is.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to get anybody having a big season just simply because the price tag is going to be too high.
Yeah, exactly. And right here, JT Thunder says that he thinks that he would probably hit well here because Houston's a little bit more friendlier ballpark to hit in than Camden Yards out there.
No doubt.
So right here, Chris asks, so say we do trade for Mullins, where does he play? Do you slot him in left field because you have Myers and Smith, or do you trade Myers? I don't trade Myers. I put him in left field. I trade Chas McCormick. You have to give up probably Uola or Blue Ball. I'm just saying that's
so
where
Chaz is a throw-in, unfortunately, because what you have to look at, Chaz means something to the Astros, but what is his value to the rest of the league? And there lies the bigger issue. He hasn't had a good season. He's had some health issues.
Right.
So that's a roster spot, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, there's a big worth, there's a big upside there. There could be. Where do you DH him? That's the other side. The Astros, when you look around the field, that's, you bring somebody in, he's got to play somewhere. And there lies another one of the issues that the Astros have is that, you bring in a bat, that's fine. But other than DH, he's got to be on the field somewhere.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw someone mention Suarez out in Arizona. I'm like, well, number one, he's primarily a first baseman. And someone's like, what about Josh Naylor? And I'm like, he's also a first baseman. Right. No, Suarez is a third baseman. The other guy, Naylor, is a first baseman. I'm like, you got those places covered.
Right.
And you've got, look, Altuve is, for all intents and purposes, is returning to second for the majority of the season. I don't think you're going to see him in left field a ton the rest of the year.
Well, it depends on who you move. And there lies where you have a little bit of flexibility is now that you have a little bit more of a fluid roster instead of everybody just locked in. So it's a tough situation. It is. Actually, to tell you the truth, the best thing that can happen for the Astros is to get Yordan back. You're not going to get a better bat on the market. So I think if you can get that hand healthy and get him back in the middle of that lineup, that can do more than anybody you could bring in.
And see, I think Isaac Paredes, because Chris is mentioning here in the chat to take, Isaac Paredes moving to second. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with that is not that I don't think Paredes can play second. I think he's cemented his place at third. I think he's played really, really well. And how much do you lose moving him? That's a mid-season move, Mike.
Well, but it's not like he's been playing third for you for the last little. It's not like if Bregman was over there saying, okay,
or it's not like Devers.
Right. But Devers was a terrible third baseman.
He was a terrible third baseman. He was not good. You're right.
But, and Paredes has played second base and he was open to playing second base. So it's all about mindset of the player. But again, there goes there lies that fluidity that, you can have a little bit, but the Astros just don't have a whole lot of breathing room when it comes to the 8 guys that are on the field.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, bringing back Alvarez, Arrigetti's throwing. That's a huge thing. JP Francis throwing. Luis Garcia. I mean, Christian Javier. So you have almost a complete rotation coming back. But
you go back to spring training. That's why this season has been so remarkable, because you go back to early in spring training, even prior to spring training starting, you go, well, the Astros pitching, once they get into the middle of the season, they're going to be fine because all these guys are coming back. Well, guess what? It ain't that simple. You still have to, the guys have to get healthy and get back in, and they're on the road, but there have been some hiccups also. We thought at one point that Luis Garcia was right around the corner. Then he had a setback. Javier, hasn't progressed quite as quickly as people thought he might. So, and there lies the problem with guys on the IL coming back, because you just never know.
Yeah. So very last thing tonight, Joe Espada. Well, I know we've talked about him this year. I have a hard time believing that he doesn't at least get first place votes this year for Coach of the Year, Manager of the Year. I think what he's had to deal with, Mike.
There's no doubt. The problem is, and he may win, and I hope he does, because he does deserve it. They don't like, first, Astros. Okay. And second, they like first-time managers. They like, the underdog. And the Astros were absolutely not the underdog coming into the – yeah, I mean, you look at the roster and you say, yeah, they had a big turnover and this, that, and the other. But this team has been good for the better part of the last decade. So it's going to be a hard sell, even though the evidence is there. I mean, you look at it, there's no doubt the evidence is there, but they like the underdog. They like the team that comes out of nowhere. You know who it's probably going to be? It's probably going to be the former Astros manager, AJ Hinch.
They're in Detroit. Yeah. And I mean, he definitely has a case for it, because last year when they were in the playoffs, the talk was, oh, they have Tarek Skubal and that's pretty much it. They don't have anybody else. Like, literally, they were crapping on their whole roster.
Right.
I mean,
what I think a lot of what goes into this is you look at it and you go, okay, are the Astros overachieving from what their expectations were prior to the beginning of the season? The answer is no. I mean, yeah, they're playing extremely well. They've got 50 wins, third team, all the data, all the finer points, but is it really a surprise that the Astros are leading the American League West? No. Is it a surprise that the Tigers are the best team in baseball as far as record is concerned? Yeah, that's a surprise.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Man, I hate when you bring logic into these. It's okay. I'll forgive you this time. Wait, we'll have to keep forgiving you.
You're going to forgive me for being right? Okay.
Yeah. No, for not entertaining my fanaticism, right?
Well, somebody's got to keep you grounded.
Jeez, I know, for real. I know. I'm like, I do see, I do say, what would Jesus do? But sometimes I say, what would Mike think when it comes to
don't put me in that category. There's one place you don't want to be, and that's kind of in here. You don't want to be in there.
Oh man, awesome.
I am left-handed.
Yeah. Hey, that's right, man. Look, this has been a great discussion. I love it. Especially, it's a lot funner to talk about Astros when they're winning.
Oh yeah.
But also when they're finding ways to win. When you got guys coming up that are helping this team that you didn't even know that were in the baseball universe. Right. So, but Mike, this is another great episode. Thank you so much. For just sharing your knowledge. I love every time you go back into your playing days, talk about the guys you played with, the Clemens and the Bonds, and it's just so neat to hear. So from myself, from everybody at Wheelhouse Media Company, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on everything social media. Look, ask Mike questions. I mean, we got questions, and we got some other things that we're cooking up that we're working on. So just be looking for that. So from everybody here at Wheelhouse Media, y'all have a good one.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking